Recording. All right. On this episode of Uncommon Wisdom, I am joined by, let's see here, I'm going to get your names right. Michael Townsend Hicks and James Humphreys. At
Joe
what is it?
Slater, sorry.
University of, say again?
Wait, this is Joe.
James is the one that can't join us.
James
Sorry.
is the one who can't
Oh, I'm
join
sorry.
us. Yeah,
There were two J's. I mixed it up. I apologize. My bad.
yeah.
That's okay.
And Joe Slater. But James Humphreys couldn't join us, but he's one of the authors of the paper we're going to talk about. And you guys are at University of Glasgow, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Okay, so going alphabetically, I'm curious, James, and then Mike, how you became an academic, and then how you became a philosopher. I take those to be separate questions, but they're both very odd career choices. So
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Yep.
Oh God. For me, kind of inertia, I guess. I did the philosophy undergrad, then the master's. I wasn't quite done with it yet, so I ended up doing the PhD, and then I thought I still really wasn't done with it, and applied for some jobs, and luckily got one. So I kind of have just stuck with it and haven't been able to think of a better option.
Great. I think I decided that it might be fun to be an academic early, and that's because I'm a legacy academic. My dad was an accountancy professor at like a small state university. And one of my uncles and aunts are chemists also at sort of mid-sized state universities. And I thought these people are real quirky and seem to get to explore that in the ways that they want to. And also have some kind of work-life balance, which I didn't realize was an illusion. But that made me think I wanted to be an academic. And then and then I really liked philosophy early on. So I kind of decided as an undergrad, why don't I do this? And looking back, I think I did not know what it was going to be like. Like I'm now pretty happy and I like the stuff I work on. I really enjoy my job, but I'm definitely doing more work than I expected to. And as you hear from my voice, I'm American and I'm working in Scotland, and I definitely didn't expect that to happen. But I also enjoy that, so it's kind of like the end result that was definitely completely unanticipated.
So, Joe, are you come from a background in academics too, or is this sort of a
No,
break?
no. First academic. First one to do like a PhD. Like a few people in my class, my family had done university before, but yeah, this is new. But yeah, I think that there's something, particularly when you're an undergrad and you see some of the lecturers, and you think that looks like a really cool job. And little do you know that it's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. They look happy. They've done a really good job of presenting this happiness facade. I think I'm less good at presenting that, but
No, you've become curmudgeonly.
that's true.
Yeah, but in such a likable way.
Nice.
Yeah, to me.
Yeah, I feel like that's true of most dream jobs, right? If you ever wanted to be a commercial pilot or a surgeon or president of
Yeah.
the United States, God forbid, and then you get the job and you're like, oh, I get to see all the warts and the underside and the
Yeah.
politics and the less fun stuff.
Yeah. What got you into academia? So, I don't know if you say this every week on your podcast, but we don't know.
I
Yeah.
originally got in. I grew up in a very religious house, like a Southern Baptist, like women
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
wear dresses kind of background.
yeah,
Um, and was very curious about God, and then discovered evolution because we weren't taught about evolution, and just was like blown away and wanted to be an evolution biologist. And then realized a lot of the questions I wanted to ask were philosophy questions, and
yeah.
that's how I made my way into philosophy. So I started out in evolutionary biology and wanted to be a biologist, and then became a philosopher.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So origins. We are here to talk about your paper called ChatGPT is bullshit. It was last year. It appeared in Ethics and Information Technology. It caught my eye because it's a cool title and it seems to be accurate in a lot of ways. But I'm curious to get started. Where did you get the idea for this paper?
In the pub.
Yeah, we were talking about this student use of ChatGPT and how ChatGPT works, and realized that it's bullshit. But you know, because the papers the students produce are kind of bullshitty already. But this was kind of worse. It was like making it worse.
Yeah, yeah, and these first like few waves of ChatGPT essays came out, and it was quite obvious to us that something was awry, and we figured out fairly quickly what was going on. And it's just very frustrating. So me and Mike actually went to a reading group on ChatGPT and how it worked, and it's like, yeah, I think to a lot of philosophers, it strikes you very obviously as like something like Frankfurtian bullshit is going on.
Yeah.
Right? It's not checking anything in the real world and then saying what it's seen. It's just saying one word after another, without checking anything for facts. It's just saying what sounds good.
Yeah, and also in another kind of Frankfurtian sense, it's trying to present itself as something it's not. So sometimes in some of Frankfurt's examples, he talks about bullshitters as people who aren't trying to deceive you about the content of what they say, but are trying to deceive you about what their positioning. Like a student who pretends to have done the reading by bullshitting about it is not they're hoping to say true things, but they're trying to deceive you about whether they know any of the things they're saying, right? And ChatGPT is similar in that it is presenting itself as a normal person. It's trying to talk to you as a normal human would in some way, even though it's really functions quite differently. So it's, not attempting to lie to you about what it's saying, but is attempting maybe to deceive you about its internal states, if it has goals and all. So that's, I think, that's how I was thinking about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up Frankfurt because a lot of people, when I say ChatGPT or large language models bullshit, think I mean hallucinate.
Yeah.
And that's not what we mean when we say bullshit. So could you distinguish between the sort of the sort of term of art now that's become hallucinate, where it just makes shit up, and what we mean as philosophers when we use the term bullshit?
Good. So people tend to use the term hallucination for in the AI context to mean a large language model producing a novel falsehood. So like some sentence that is false that's not in the training data at all. Right? So just when it invents references that don't exist. It's not like anyone's written these references and it's copied a fake reference from somewhere. It's invented an entirely new reference. So it does make up completely new sentences that are false. So bullshitting is, for us in the Frankfurtian sort of sense, a broader phenomenon. It can it'll include things that are true. So, and we'd say that ChatGPT is actually doing this with everything it does, because it's never trying to deliver sentences based on representing the world after having checked, like as we would. We don't, whether way we might see something and say, hey, there's that thing over there. ChatGPT is never doing that because it doesn't have the ability to do that. It's always just writing one word token, then another.
Yeah. So I think Joe's just said two reasons, I think, right? For distinguishing between hallucination and bullshit. One is that hallucinations are like misapprehensions. So if you see the pink elephant or think you see it, that's a hallucination. And what you're doing when you say there's a pink elephant, you might be saying something false, but you're saying it because you formed a belief through the misfiring of a usually reliable sensory apparatus. That's what happens when we hallucinate. And we think that we think that it's actually deceptive to use that metaphor when describing what ChatGPT is doing, because it's not using a normally reliable sensory apparatus to come up with these beliefs. It's making it up the whole time. So hallucination is like a misleading metaphor, because first, that's not what it's doing most of the time. And second, hallucinations, people use the word hallucinations only to refer to the falsehoods. But we think that it's bullshitting even when it gets it right. Because remember, bullshitters do often get it right. And that's what makes good bullshit so effective.
A convincing bullshit is going to say a lot of true things.
Yeah. and then just drop in, a fake reference, right? To make it seem like you've done your homework. That's really good bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, the fact that the rest of the stuff is true doesn't make it not bullshit.
Because that when we talk about hallucinations, we were talking about a state of malfunction in the system. Whereas what ChatGPT is doing is just run-of-the-mill ChatGPT. It's garden variety predicting the next token. So it's just going to say whatever it thinks fits the text, regardless of its truth value. Could be true, could be false, but man, it fits the text nicely. So hallucinates are like, that's the small subset where the system is malfunctioning, I think. So there's sort of a normative component to it too. So maybe that's a third reason. I don't know. Or maybe it interacts with the other two you mentioned. You did in the paper nicely, I think. Something I didn't touch on in my response paper because it was sort of or not complimentary paper. You distinguish between soft and hard bullshit, which I had a hard time not snickering when I was reading it in the coffee shop. But can you distinguish between what you guys mean by soft and hard bullshit?
The snickering was entirely intentional on our part. Yeah, we are very mature academics.
Right. It's a serious paper. Where we're making important distinctions. That's one of them. I think, was that you or James?
It was me, I think.
Yes.
James was very, well,
insisted
we mentioned that we considered changing it to something less juvenile, but then James insisted that we certainly couldn't.
Yeah, that's right. Couldn't do that. And I think he was right, because it does both mass onto the distinction well. So the worry we had actually was that Frankfurt isn't clear. So we're building on this definition bullshit that's been present in the philosophy literature since the 80s. And that's by the philosopher Harry Frankfurt. And the paper is really good, so your listeners should go check it out. It's very readable, and there's like a bulk version of the paper that you can buy at Barnes and Noble often. But in it, Frankfurt says that bullshitting is making an assertion with disregard for truth. Is that?
It's one of the ways he puts it.
That's one of the ways he puts it. But he also seems to indicate in some of his examples and the way he describes it that there has to be this higher order deception, like we described a little bit earlier, where you're deceiving your listener about what the whole thing is about, what your goals are, or what your position is. I forget the phrase.
Yeah. So talks about misleading about the enterprise. If you're in the enterprise of if you well, sometimes you suggest that you have to be bullshitting, you have to be trying to make people think that you care about truth.
Yeah.
Right. So that it suggests that there is this sort of intention in there. And this is the reason why we brought this distinction in, because we're not, I think we don't think that ChatGPT and similar things really have intentions. Right. So obviously different philosophers do differ on this, but we didn't want to lose people completely by committing to something like ChatGPT having intentions. So we thought we could kind of be modest about this and say, look, even if it doesn't have intentions, there's a kind of bullshitting that it's doing, where you are saying things with an indifference to truth.
Reckless indifference.
Whether it's reckless or not might be
okay.
You can say things with an indifference to truth without having this intention to mislead the audience to think that you care about true things. And ChatGPT seems like it's doing that, right? Because this is the soft bullshit. There's none of this extra intention.
Yeah.
The hard bullshitter is someone who is trying to mislead the person. If I'm bullshitting you, I'm trying to make you think that when I'm speaking, I care about the truth of what I'm saying. So it has this extra intention involved there. So that's the hard bullshit.
Yeah, and the weird thing is that I think Frankfurt, in his early paper, his explicit definition is the one we call soft bullshit. And then most of his examples and some of his description of it indicate the kind of what we call hard bullshit, which is bullshit with this extra intention to make the hearer think that your enterprise is to speak truths for some reason.
Yeah, I remember reading Frankfurt when he was on the Colbert Report back in 2006, I think, because I was an undergrad at the time, or maybe I was working on my master's. Anyway, and I read the essay, and I remember having that same worry, like, do you need the intention or not? Because it seems like the examples he would give, like you said, like a politician, a bureaucrat, salesperson, they are trying to mislead you. There's an intent to it. But do you think
Yeah.
you can have a broad indifference to the truth and not really intend to mislead anybody? You're just kind of an idiot, or like ChatGPT, you're just piss poorly designed. But I wanted to add something. There's some that ChatGPT is almost in the middle. And the reason I say that, and I'm not attributing intentionality to it, but like the way it'll like kiss your butt or like try and upsell you, like, do you want me to take this paragraph and turn it into a whole book? You know what I mean? Like that kind of like, and I'll just be like, dude, don't upsell me. Like, I just need you to look for typos. Like, you're not creative. You're not like I bring the creativity. You just do the crap I don't want to do. Like, look for typos. But it seems to like kiss your butt. Talk about this is an amazing idea. It's the most amazing idea anyone's ever had in the whole. And you're like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. So I don't, and that's not intentional, but I don't even know what that is. But it's not just this indifference to truth. It's like it's a form of bullshit, I think, because sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not. But it's like the sycophantic bullshit.
I would say it is just the same bullshit that we've been talking about, but because it's been calibrated in such a way, with the human reinforced learning, the things that have been like upvoted are patterns of text that do kiss ass, as you would say. They are like this really sycophantic. You're like whoever the user is, they are a genius like never before seen. That's the sort of thing that users like to hear, it turns out. So that's what has been upvoted. The customer is not only always right, but always a genius here, right? And they want to be presented that way. So I think it is, and I think we could have the very same underlying architecture, but with like someone who I don't know has a kink for getting insulted, and then we could get a ChatGPT version that would be just like really kind of weird and kinky and insulting about certain things. I'm sure someone's done that already.
I thought this was also something that kind of came through in your paper, which is that there are different ways we use the term bullshit. So Frankfurtian bullshit is one type, but there is also this general feeling we get when someone is kissing our ass or bullshitting us in this kind of complimentary way. And the way it's trained, it does the second one too. So for us, I think we count it as bullshit, even if it wasn't doing that. But the way it talks feels bullshit. And for that kind of reason. And I think you're right. That has something to do with the way it's trained and that kind of stuff that it's building on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely not intentional. It's definitely reinforced, and it's reinforced by the fact that people like their butts kissed. I mean, this is a thing. I do too. People like nice things said about them, of course, but we want to be convinced that it's genuine. So could you put a little more effort into it? Throw in some true things there. Bullshit me a little bit. Come on. When I read your paper, I read it as almost like a design argument, almost like the way, and not intentionally designed. I mean, sort of a like it was built into the architecture. It's almost like the very way it was put together, it's almost inevitable this thing will bullshit. Is that a good reading of your argument?
Yeah.
That's what we think.
Yeah, I think that we were thinking when we were talking about hard bullshit, when we were designing the paper, we thought that we might be able to get a good argument that it actually has the intentions because it has this purpose to its design. So like the design, you have a design system. The system doesn't have goals of its own the way we have intentions of our own. But the system has goals that you've kind of imparted to it by the way you've designed it. And we at first were thinking we would be able to argue that it has real intentions because of the way it's designed. But we weren't able to convince ourselves of that. So then we were like, it doesn't really intend to deceive about the nature of the enterprise or whatever. But it is designed to do that. So it does have this kind of goal built into it, I think, because of the way it was designed. And like you say, maybe not, because it probably isn't the case that the people who like run OpenAI or Anthropic or Meta's part of the thing that does Llama, I forget what their research they have their anyway, it's just, it doesn't have to be the case that the architects the humans who did it were thinking they were going to design something this way, but they constructed a system that selects for this. And so that's a way in which it's like designed to bullshit.
Yeah, I think the kind of closest human parallel would be like someone just saying the first things that come to their head in a sort of a break, like a word association game kind of thing, right? And you might be able to write a good story like that. You might be able to say some entertaining things like that. But this isn't checking for truth. This isn't saying what you see. This isn't doing any like the regular kinds of things that we're doing when we're engaged in typical discourse.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe another way to think. I was thinking about it, what you were talking about, and I thought, I wonder if someone could say something like, it's not, it's large language models are accurate insofar as they're trained on accurate data and don't hallucinate too much. Yeah, no, I see the faces, but so I'm getting an argument, meaning that it would do the same thing even if you trained it on like Shakespearean literature and nothing but. And then I asked it, or like it's all it's going to do is going to use the body of text and then use that to predict the next token. So it doesn't matter if the body of text is true. It doesn't matter if it's false.
Yeah.
It could be half and half. All it's going to do is take that body, the training data, with some reinforcement and just produce the next predicted token. Right. So that's another thing about it. Like it doesn't care. It doesn't give a shit what you feed into it. It's just going to use that to predict the next token.
Yeah.
Maybe another way to think about it.
Another thing I just wanted to say is, I'm sorry, this is interrupting the flow of the conversation because I wanted to go back to that hard soft distinction. I just wanted to say we think that that is a good distinction and hope that other people pick it up outside of the AI literature. If you have philosophers listening who work on bullshit, you know, Frankfurt isn't totally clear, and I think this is a call for a distinction.
Yeah, I agree.
It is a contribution to the literature on bullshit more generally.
Yeah, we're making contributions all over the place.
Exactly.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I remember reading your distinction and thinking,
philosophers here.
I remember reading your distinction in the paper and thinking, like, yeah, no, that's what Frankfurt does. He runs those two together. You're right. And it had been confusing to me for years. I could never put my finger on it. I'm like, that's what it is. You nailed it. So no, that actually was a helpful distinction. The reason I brought up the architecture and the design thing was I was reading your paper and it struck me like I said, you could train it on fiction and it would just produce the next token.
Yeah.
So then I thought, wait a minute, it's going to reflect to some degree human bullshit, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
if you have social desirability bias, people care about their reputations. They'll say things in one way when they really mean it a different way. And ChatGPT is going to train on that. It's not going to train on the local knowledge, the tacit knowledge, the subtle stuff. I mean, some of that might be contained in the text. But that was sort of the original thought. It was like, even if you had like, you just trained it on human data, you're going to get bullshit in the data too, aren't you? For the same reasons. People care about what people think of them. They're trying to mislead, sometimes intentionally, and sometimes just by like selection pressures, like our brains have been designed to frame things in certain ways. So that was sort of the original idea. But I'm curious what you all thought of it.
I really liked the discussion in your paper of the reasons people bullshit. Because I hadn't thought about that at all. And one thing I thought is you point out that one of the reasons people bullshit is to seem intelligent, and that there's kind of a marketplace for seeming intelligent, and that people judge good skilled bullshitters as more intelligent often than people who actually know what they're talking about. Am I remembering this right from from your paper? And that made me wonder if like one of the reasons ChatGPT is trained bullshit is because the people making it want it to be relied on as an expert. And the most effective way to do that is by allowing it to bullshit. So some of the recent articles that OpenAI and Anthropic have put out about what they call hallucinations, which is the kind of false results these things come up with, have indicated that they do have ways of mitigating that problem. But doing that will require them to have the chatbot answer, oh, I don't know. much more frequently, right? So they can try to train it to say I don't know much more, even in cases where it might get it right, in order to minimize the false positives, the times when it says it knows but it doesn't, right? And they don't do that because they think it'll lead to a decrease in use, that people will use it less if it's always saying I don't know. And that's like the same reason that you say people bullshit. So they're in this marketplace where they're like, our chatbot is competing with Google and Wikipedia and other chatbots. And if it's always saying, oh, I don't know the answer to that, people won't use it. So instead they like design it so that it always answers confidently, even when it doesn't. And I thought that was
No, it's interesting that you bring that up. I didn't know that. It doesn't surprise me that they would do that. But two
and
thoughts come to mind.
That's something that I read recently on like a blog post from. There's a blog post by I think Anthropic, and then there was some discussion of that on Blue Sky, and that's my source for this.
Okay,
But and that came out after your paper, so it kind of reminded me of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, I mean, who was more popular in the ancient Greeks? From what we're told, the Socrates and the Socratics were the philosophists in many ways. But it also occurs to me that, yeah, I think part of it is that people rely on second order data. So things like confidence, saying things with authority, not saying I don't know. I mean, if you're coming into this and you don't know much about a topic, you have high opportunity costs, meaning you have lots of other things you need to get done. You don't have a lot of compute internally, maybe. Like you're not a supercomputer, you don't have all those. One heuristic is to rely on second order things like confidence, tone of voice. Saying I don't know a lot is not really a good, like if you don't even know, why should I rely on you? And I suspect that's what's doing a lot of the work here. It's a quick and dirty heuristic that can be exploited. I don't know though. What do you think?
Yeah, and I do wonder if they're training the chatbots to do that. Like, if one reason that they reinforce that and kind of prevent it is because it drives usership. So it like puts more eyes on it because feels more reliable. That's kind of a perverse incentive.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I mean, it's sort of similar too, where you have like the Socratic trained philosophers in a sense competing for attention space with the sophists. And then presumably we're told, I don't know if this is true, but in the theory, they are losing to them. So you're doing the same thing. You have like an attention market, an attention race.
Yeah.
And then you've got Claude and Grok and ChatGPT and all these other ones. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, and now we're apparently doing what, AI slot feeds or something? I don't know. That doesn't surprise me either.
I hadn't thought about the debate between, or like the maybe not debate, but the competition between the sophists and the like Socrates and the philosophers as being a case of the attention economy gone wrong. But it totally is. It's like it's the same thing people are talking about with like Facebook and modern social media robbing us of reliable sources for knowledge.
So what you're saying is that all these people writing about this as a new phenomenon, like no, this has been around for thousands of years. It's old hat.
That's a cool idea, Jim.
Yeah, nice.
Another thing I thought about, we can keep talking about the thing I did. Am I moving us on too fast? I had another thought about your paper too, which is at the end of your paper, you talk about people using ChatGPT bullshit better. Like there's this incentive for humans to bullshit. And that's what we thought. I mean, I think that's what started us on this too. We were like, our students, what I told my students this year is I was like, look, don't use ChatGPT. It's bullshit. I wrote a paper on it, because we want to discourage students from turning in things that are entirely written by large language models. But I tell them, I'm like, you can bullshit better than the computer can. I've seen it. Students are usually better. But you're suggesting that maybe not, or maybe ChatGPT can help them when they're writing a bullshit paper. Like students write bullshit papers.
They do.
Um,
So I think it's kind of mixed, right? It's better. They're better at bullshitting in some ways, but
Yeah.
students are less likely to make up references.
Yeah.
Right. That's like one of the most obvious telltale signs that they've used something like ChatGPT, that there's a completely fake reference there. Students themselves are likely to pick a real thing and like just get it wrong. And if we don't check every reference, and who has the time to do that, then they might get away with it. Whereas if they pick a book that doesn't exist, or like completely get the year wrong, or something like that,
or
then
I've seen they get their first name wrong. They'll like cite it correctly, and then call the Judith Jarvis Thompson. I had a student who wrote a paper where he called her James the whole time, like a male name. I was like, how did that happen? But everything was grammatically correct. The years were all right.
It's weird for that. I had a bunch of students get a philosopher's name wrong with lots of different permutations of a first name as well. Sorry, getting off
like
track.
half my students will insist that it's John Stuart Mills. I didn't know it was plural.
Yeah.
I get that
Oh,
a
that's a
lot.
classic problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's that section was sort of a throwaway. I don't even know why I included it, but the idea was something like it's going to help people to varying degrees. So if you're already a really good bullshitter, and I can think of some people I'm not going to name, probably ChatGPT is not going to help you. But at the margin, if you're a really shitty bullshitter, or like maybe you have an anger problem, you want to flip off the boss and like go off on an email, and you're like, maybe I should run this through ChatGPT and be a little more diplomatic. I mean, that's a sense of form of bullshit. I'm saying things that are somewhat true, maybe throwing in some falsehoods. You're a great boss, I love you. But I'm trying to get an effect, right? I'm placating somebody, I'm going out of my way. So it's more like that kind of thing. Because I mean, I've done that before where I was ready to fire off like a really angry email, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe not the best idea.
I think there are also
and-
tasks that we just have to do in like the world today that are bullshit tasks, right? Like so many fucking job applications. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to swear on this. So many job applications like ask you to tell about a certain time you experienced a challenge, or like give these short answer questions. I think it's not so bad for like academic jobs, but like for people in like the real world, like these terrible job applications where you have to do like loads of stupid tasks, and it's just to show that you can do these tasks. ChatGPT is great for that, I'm led to believe, for people who have to do this. So I think that those kinds of tasks, and also they're so mindless that maybe it's appropriate for something without a mind to do it.
I worry though that the mindlessness is by design, and that as soon as you start assigning ChatGPT or AI agents get really good at this sort of thing, we're just going to change the equilibrium and make it something else. Like this is what I'm doing with my students right now. Like, okay, you've got a large language model, that's cute and adorable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my policies. So one of the things I do is reverse office hours. I can ask you any question and make an appointment with you about the material. And I'm talking over camera, spontaneously. You don't know what I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to try and trick you. It's not a trick. But I don't want to play this game where like you can see hesitance, you can see typing, like you get a sense of whether or not someone, like even just a couple minute conversation can tell you a lot. Policies like that do a lot. Or like now I get to look at your whole history and see every change you've made. That's not hardly, that's like 3 modifications to a document, and then you turn it in. That's weird.
We're
another one I'm doing, I'm experimenting with, which is like turn in your paper and the prompt. We can grade on a curve. How good is your prompt? In other words, so I have no idea because these social systems are really complex, but I just wonder, I'll see these like, use AI to apply to all these jobs and save time. And I think, I wonder if the system will adapt. Like, was that a feature of the system, or was it just something that like, it just built up over time and it needed to get fixed? I don't know. I mean, God knows, I've done my share of job the philosophy job market. Hold on, just so I'm very sympathetic. Trust me. I just wonder, is that the point or not? But yeah,
it is for us to. I mean, I don't. For us to here, we're reconsidering how we do valuation, assessment, grading, all those things as a result of ChatGPT, and it is knocking us out of some complacency around just assigning essays and grading essays. That might be good, but it is not clear. Like it might be good to some degree, but I think that there was something good about students learning how to write an extended argument. An essay is the best method for that. And we're less able to do that because it's much easier than to cheat. And I think that's bad, but there are a lot of, like, your description of reverse office hours sounds like an oral examination, which they used to do here. Like, this is the University of Glasgow, as any t-shirt will tell you. It was founded in 1451. It's on all our baseball caps and stuff. But like for hundreds of years, in order to graduate, you had to do an oral examination, and there were special seats you had to sit on or something. I don't know. But they stopped doing that like only 50 years ago. Do you know the history of this?
I do not know this.
Somebody explained this to me, but I don't know if they were bullshitting me or not. But I do know that they did have oral examinations for a while. That used to be the norm at universities. And then for a lot of reasons, they changed to written examinations, and you still would watch the students write it physically into the 2020s, and now it's all online, and that's like impossible to check in ChatGPT. You can't see what they are doing that, but when they did oral examinations, you had to actually memorize things, and that was just a whole different skill.
Do you think it's a bit depressing seeing some of the changes in assessment? Because a lot of people, not for many of my courses, but I know a lot of academics are moving back to in-person exams. And this is something that we've been largely moving away from because for good pedagogical reasons, like a lot of students don't like really freak out in exams or get stressed in exams. It's also just not a great way of assessing how good people are at philosophy. Hey, I'll lock you in a room for 90 minutes. You write some arguments that you remember down as well as you can. That's not what we do when we're writing philosophy research.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like anything that we do in our jobs or what we think good philosophy looks like. So like, I think we were moving on from like the in-person exams, like the written exams, for very good reason. And now, like, unfortunately, because of ChatGPT undermining essays, like, we've had to go back.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I mean, I think writing is thinking. I
Yeah.
think my thinking improves when I outline, I write, I
Yeah.
draft. But I also recognize they're not going to do that. Like I have some students that will. God bless them. I love those students. They're the reason I teach. But 80, 90% of students aren't going to do that. They see it as a credentialing arms race. Bob, Sally, and what's her name down the street is going to use ChatGPT, so why shouldn't I? And I hear that argument to a point. There's some practicality to that. It does suck. I remember having to get credits and check boxes and do that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I hear you. It's definitely a sad loss, and I didn't make these changes glibly or quickly, but I'm sort of begrudgingly, but sort of adopting more law school techniques. Because my wife has just recently graduated from law school, and I'm like, yeah, you can be called on anytime.
Yeah.
I just randomly go the tenants list. I'm like, you tell me about Descartes' argument for whatever.
So
Right.
I do
And that's
kind
just
of
the
like
thing in
this.
law school. People know that. So maybe bringing that back. I think you're right. It punishes deeper thought, longer projects, things at stages. But I don't mean maybe we'll come up with another alternative. Yeah.
I kind of think of this as one skill among many, and it's one that we used to emphasize more, and now we emphasize less, and maybe we'll go back to it. So I think in philosophy, there's so advantage to being quick on your feet. And they used to prize that a lot. It used to be that you went and gave a talk at a university and we hit you with the hardest questions and then judge you if you couldn't answer them quickly, you kind of thought about it. And I think correctly now we're much more willing to let someone say, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Let me get back to you, and not think that that's like an embarrassment, because it really is the case that a lot of us need to think about something for a while to come back at it. At the same time, sometimes you come up with the best ideas when you're arguing in the pub. And then that's like thinking on your feet without your notes, right? And that can be valuable in some ways as well as like part of your idea generation process.
We're thinking about transferable skills, like
Yeah.
thinking on your feet and talking
Yeah.
with people in real time.
Yeah.
That's an important thing to have, and to respond to questions about the material.
Yeah.
That's something that you're going to do like about any material that you
Yeah.
might be supposed to know.
Yeah, and at the same time, like reading and evaluating stuff at home, another skill that students should gain, and that one is the one that I think they're getting less of with ChatGPT. I also want to say we're going to one thing I want to say before we
Yeah, please.
close too is that one of the pressures that we hear from people at our university, especially kind of higher ups, people who are designing the curriculum and thinking about what direction the university should go in, is that students are going to be using ChatGPT in the workplace. So we need to accept that and train them to do so well. And I just want to say that I'm not convinced of that. And one of the things that I think fed into our paper, I mean, I think they will probably use it in some way, but one of the things that fed into our paper is that we think that large language models really can't replace a lot of the kind of clerical work that these companies want them to replace. You know, it's just not going to replace a lot of workers who are evaluating, like researchers in a law firm, who maybe are paralegals, are not all going to be replaced by ChatGPT. Large language models can read lots of emails and scan them for whether they're relevant to a case, but it's not going to be able to really evaluate this well because it's not reliable and it is bullshitting a lot of the time. And for those real research jobs, you need someone who's not doing that. And my worry is that because it's a new technology, a lot of people are expecting it to do more than it's going to do. And these papers that you've written and that we've written about how and why it's not reliable, I think are an important kind of pushback on idea that it's going to replace a lot of workers. It might assist people and make things faster in some ways, but you're still going to need like a human to go through and check the sources and check with argument makes sense. And we need to train students to do that still.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the most charitable argument is that you'll always have humans in the loop, but they'll be more empowered, maybe more productive. You'll need fewer of them. Maybe that would be the best case. But yeah, because you have to check everything it does, and it looks so convincing if you don't carefully read it, because it's done this to me so many, and then it'll lie to you, but like, you clearly didn't read one of the sources that I uploaded. Oh no, I totally did. Okay, so if you read it, then you would know blah blah blah. Oh, that's true. I guess I didn't read it. I'm sorry. And then turns around and does it again. So you, but if I wasn't paying attention, I might have missed it. So yeah, that's fair enough. Um, I think the point you're making is that we should be open to change in higher ed, but let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and hopefully be thoughtful about it. So the point you were making that it's inspired you to change your assessment, I think in some ways, in good ways, I think that's right. It's kind of good to see these changes happening in some ways, but there are some skills that we used to train and now de-emphasizing, which I think ChatGPT won't really be able to replace. These kind of like research skills that go into writing an essay. And so we still need to find a way to train students to do that.
In fact, one of the things that got me thinking about my paper, ChatGPT is bullshit, partly because people are bullshitters.
Yeah.
Was I started using it a little bit in class, teaching applied ethics in particular, where students get really hot under the collar about like abortion or gay marriage or things that are just at least in the States. I don't know about across the pond. And I noticed I would use ChatGPT, I still do, as like a foil for the students. So I would have it defend like a pro-life position, right? Like Don Marquis's Future Like Ours, right?
Yeah.
And I would upload the paper and then like train the model to defend Marquis. Just pretend you're Marquis, defend Marquis, and then have the students take shots at it. My participation doubled.
Yeah.
Like twice the hands went up. And I was like, what the? Because I was just like experimenting, trying to figure out why. I remember sitting in my office being like, what the hell? And it dawned on me, it's a lot easier to contradict a stupid computer than a classmate on a very highly charged political issue. There's reputations at stake. There's social data. And it was like, oh shit. Like the data that the thing trains on is going to reflect that. It's going to reflect that. And it's going to reflect it in a bullshit sense. Because it's not really about true or false. People are going to say things in class. They're going to say things to each other. Whether they really think them or not probably has a lot to do with, or there's going to be an input or a weight is going to be reputation. How am I seen by my classmates? How are they going to evaluate me going forward? Are there going to be social costs to this view? Whereas if I think ChatGPT is an idiot, by implication, yes, but it's not as direct. It's a little more indirect.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go in a couple of minutes. Just in case there's anything you want to ask us before then. I can leave Mike. I've got to go play football or soccer. That's much more.
Soccer.
There's a department football team here that I've never joined. But Joe's on it. And actually his office mate just dribbled the ball out of the office. So you didn't see that. But was moderately distracting for me. Just trying to do some QB uppies and failed. And I want that to be on record.
If you could just give me a quick talk, or just give me a quick pitch of what your your response is, or kind of what the reply paper that, unless you think that'll ruin peer review.
I think
I don't want to ruin for you.
In the reply paper, I think we actually had slightly different thoughts about it, but our main thought was that the fact we wanted to say that the reason ChatGPT bullshits isn't because of the source material, it's because of the design. And so we, in our response, are kind of focused on that idea that it's not so much the data it's trained on that's doing it, it's that its goal is to sound normal rather than convey truth. So even if it had been trained, this is what we find, even if it had been trained on perfect material, it would still be bullshitting. And that's remember you said this earlier, you're like, why did you get that expression? That's why we got that expression. So this is our point of disagreement with you, sir. But I think that the kind of way it bullshits and the way it sounds so much like a human bullshitter, I think you're right. I'm kind of convinced that that's because it's trained by humans for in these weird conversations.
Yeah, so it seems it's definitely true. The kind of bullshit you get out of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Particularly things that strike us as bullshit, even in the non-Frankfurty sense. That is because of what is in the training data, what people have said. That's definitely right.
We also liked your idea of bullshit by omission, and I don't remember if we kept anything in the paper about it. We had in one of the drafts we had a thing where we were like, this is a cool idea, but then we were like, we're not saying anything about it other than fact. So I don't know if we kept something in the draft about it.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll accept and you can read and respond to us.
No, yeah, I look forward to it. It sounds really interesting. And like I said, that's very flattering. So, Joe, Mike, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. I will provide links to Harry Frankfurt, your article, and mine too. And then is there any place people can go to find your work?
I have a website. It's townsendhicks.com. www.townsendhicks.com. And it's mostly philosophy of science, like possibility of physics type stuff. So, but there is this one paper about ChatGPT.
Yeah, and maybe more.
Well, I don't really use it.
You don't use it? I keep mine kind of updated. Yeah.
What about you, Joe? Where can we find your work?
I do have a website. It's rarely updated, but the Glasgow faculty, the philosophy staff page, I guess, is the place to go. That has all my papers, and some extra ones about ChatGPT as well, and large language models.
Yeah, you did.
But yeah, hopefully I'll publish more things soon. But yeah, nothing too useful.
Yeah, Mike, Joe, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's really fun.